Welcome to the Ace Clearwater video training series. The focus of this video is lead pour safety. We begin with inspecting the lift chain. Check for any wear and tear on the rings. Look for any cracked links or other signs of damage. Make sure all lift points have been used on the block. Insert at least 4 pins into the block to ensure a safe and level lift. Ensure that the chain is untangled and that the lifting device fits securely on the hooks. Once the lift has been accomplished, it is important to keep the pins and chains away from the interior of the die so as not to scratch the surface or cause blemishes in the casting. Position assembly build-up pins all the way around the surface of the die so the plate can easily be inserted between the pin and the die. Now it's time to select the proper length of build-up plates to complete the assembly work. During the assembly, the dogs of the die are used as reference points for wood blocks during the build-up. With the blocking in basic position, now it's time to begin to assemble the plates up and around the die using the dogs and the blocks as lift points. The securing of the plates begins with wedging the blocks between the pins and the upright plates. Notice the careful positioning of the pin, the block, and the plate. With the blocks tapped in against the pins, wedges are added to give additional mechanical strength in the assembly and are lightly tapped into position. The most important element in the assembly of the die is the overlapping of plates on each corner of the assembled die. Notice how one plate clearly overlaps the next plate. With the plate secured in position, Rabbitite is added to the joint to fill the small crevice in the overlapping plates. Again, the overlapping plates being the key feature in the assembly. The Rabbitite material is prepared by taking out a small handful at a time and squashing it down into a long pin. When ready, the Rabbitite is placed into the corners judiciously, forcing all the crevices closed between the overlapping plates from top to bottom. The next step seals the edges of the die and the plate. We do this using tissue, rolling it into the same type of dowel shape as we did earlier with the Rabbitite, and feeding the edges between the die and the build-up plate. Next, we smoke the die to burn in all the sealant into position. This is done with an oxyacetylene torch moving back and forth across the seams, oxidizing the face of the die and burning in place the sealant material. Just ahead of the pour, it is necessary to measure the width, length, and depth of the pour and record the lead used in the process in the lead log. This allows for proper environmental record keeping and inspection of the built die. The length, width, and height is verified by the supervisor, and the supervisor's signature or initials are placed on the lead log. Before the pour begins, the dust collector is put into high-speed mode. This is done by deactivating the low-speed mode and activating the high-speed motor. Protective barriers are put into place to stop non-authorized personnel from entering the pour zone. The hood is raised to allow for proper access to the pot and is pulled back into position while the fan is in high-speed mode. The pour team, a 2-man team, readies the crane to pick up the ladle to begin the pour operation. Both are well suited in their PPE and are prepared for the operation. The pour ladle is then secured to the crane and lifted to the spout of the pot for pouring. Liquid metal is poured into the ladle bucket slowly, while the crane operator moves the ladle against the lip of the pot, keeping the ladle and lip forced together. The ladle is then rested on the outside of the clear area in front of the pot for the next maneuver to the pour station. Cool particles are then removed from the top of the pour bucket. The 2-man team carefully lifts the bucket towards the die. They align the bucket into the die and then they begin to slowly pour the liquid lead into the die box. The 2-man team position the ladle just above the build-up plates and begin pouring the molten metal using a side-by-side motion for even distribution. While in liquid state, the spider is positioned over the molten metal to properly place the inserts for pickup. The pickups are then lowered into the molten metal at a proper height. The torch is once again used to cut around the edges of the now poured punch to allow mold release and breakage during the disassembly of the buildup plate.